Well, welcome to episode number 4 of Life of Leadership in Lorain County. My guest today is going to be Julie Cruz-Blair. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Bob.
Before we get to asking Julie some questions, let's first of all thank our sponsors. First of all, over here, BCT Alarms, Brian Jankowski, 877-215-0763. You're looking for home security, you're looking for fire. If you're a business owner and you need fire alarms, Brian does it all. And the interesting thing is Brian Jankowski is who introduced me to Julie, right, Julie?
He is, yes. He's a former board member and a golf committee member, and he's actually gone through the class.
Exactly. So we love Brian, and I also want to give a shout out to WOBL and WDLW. WOBL is AM 1320 and 107.7 FM. WDLW AM 1380 and 98.9 FM. Gary and Renee Tillett are doing a great job carrying on the tradition of these radio stations, and they're looking out for Lorain County. And I appreciate the fact that we're able to work together on this on this podcast. So with that being said, Julie, are you having a wonderful day, or what's going on in your life today?
I'm having a warm day. Sitting inside looking at the snow from the inside. It's always nice.
I was out earlier today. It's chilly out there.
It is. It is.
Take my dog Sage out for a walk at like 5 a.m. and it was, I think, 7 degrees this morning at 5 a.m. So yeah. Crazy. All right. So you're currently the executive director for Leadership Lorain County. And so what was your background prior to that? Where did you come from? Where did you grow up? What did you do prior to that?
Born and raised here in Lorain County. I am a Clearview graduate. We have, been in Lorain my whole life. So my parents both worked for the steel mill, and I have 2 siblings, a brother and a sister. And they went on to Ohio State and Toledo University, and I went to Cleveland State. So we're all college graduates and still kind of doing our thing here in the Lorain area.
Okay. And what did you do professionally before you took over as executive director?
Oh, so professionally, I was over at the at Second Harvest Food Bank was my profession before I came here. But prior to that, I'm actually your non-traditional student. I had gone to Bowling Green originally, and then decided halfway through my career in doing medical billing that I wanted to do something different. And I wanted to help the community the best way I could, which was then getting involved with nonprofits. So I went through the partnership program over at LCCC and ended up being a Cleveland State graduate.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so why don't you give us a little bit of background on Leadership Lorain County? Tell us, what you guys do, what's the the mission, what's it all about? So
overall, our mission is to gather folks from all areas, education, corporate, nonprofit, and bring them together and to find the areas in Lorain County that need their assistance. It's helping people to find their inner purpose as well as what could be their professional purpose, and overall helping the community in any way that they possibly can. So the idea is to help them find out what the resources are in the area, and then to find out where they can plug in. If that's as a volunteer, as a board member, or if it's just enhancing what they've already got going on. Because we've had some folks who have been thinking about, forming a nonprofit, who've gone through the course, done their networking and what have you, and then come out and actually get that nonprofit, going in full force. So then we do the same thing for college students. The idea is to keep our talent here in the area. So we kind of do the same thing with them, but in a shorter amount of time. It's over the summer. So we put them in paid programmed or paid interned positions with nonprofits, and that is actually assisted through a grant through Community Foundation. And those individuals get to get a taste again of what is happening in Lorain County, how they can plug in. And the idea is that we stay in touch with those individuals and that they come back to Lorain County after they've graduated and, done given us just as much of their talents as they did in school.
Yeah, it's pretty important to keep the talent as much as we can in the county, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we've had interns who have actually gone through the intern program who come back and have either gotten jobs or they have come back and, for another year and served with us and have found what it was that they realized that they didn't know they were missing, if that makes sense. It's like, oh, I went to school for this, but this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And so whether it is just, I want to say changing what their career plan was, but maybe enhancing what their career plan was. If it's marketing, then they realize, oh, I enjoyed the passion behind what was the nonprofit that I worked for. That's where I want to go back. So it's all around just trying to, like you said, keep our talent here in the area.
So what caused you to come over to Leadership Lorain County? What was the impetus behind that? And
so that's a funny story and somewhat going to be a shameless plug on my part. So we have what is the Difference Makers Gala, which is happening on February 18th. It's going to be virtual this year, but it was actually back in 2015, and I had attended the event. And that was to actually honor who was my boss at the time, which was Julie Chase-Moorfield from Second Harvest Food Bank. And I will tell you and I've probably told this story 100 times, but I love telling it and I still get chills from it. Just being there and the positivity that was coming through the room, just for the people who were, one, there to support their honoree, and then two, the way that everybody mingled together and the networking and the ideas that were just coming from conversations. And in that moment so we show a video honoring that person and, what it is in their life that brought them to the place that they are right now. And I probably learned more about Julie in that 5-minute video than I had in actually working there. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that more or less, when you're at your job, you're at your job, you're doing your thing. You don't always get so super personal. So I think in seeing that video, I got chills even just watching the video and learning so much about her. And I thought to myself, wow, how awesome would it be to work for Leadership Lorain County? Like, is this how it is all the time? And sure enough, there was an opening that ended up happening, I don't know, maybe 2 months after that. And I applied and here I am today. So it was funny because when I remember when being at the event and being with a coworker and said, oh my gosh, how awesome would it be to actually work for Leadership Lorain County? And after I had gotten the position and what have you, she, reached out and said, so, how's everything going? And I was like, everything's good. She was like, so how involved are you with Leadership Lorain County now? And I'm like, so I'm kind of working there now. And she was just excited. And I don't know, it's just so awesome to have people in your life who are, a win is a win. It's a win for you. It's a win for them. And so that's just who she's always been in my life. And so it was just kind of cool that she was just as excited about me working for Leadership Lorain County as I was. So
tell me a little bit about the Difference Makers Ball.
So it is happening on February 18th, and that's a Friday night, and it'll be virtual. It's 6:30 to 8:30, and folks can purchase a stream and get to see pretty much the same aspect of what would have been that evening. So we do the videos of the honorees, and this year we will be celebrating Urban Link and their impact on the community. We are also celebrating Ann Slash as the superintendent of schools for Elyria City. And Wendy Caldwell is also listed as a difference maker and her impact in the community. We have Paris Smith, who happens to also be the executive director for Urban League. She is actually being honored as an inspirational leader. So she gets what is the Emerald. It's a 45-year or younger individual who's an up-and-coming leader. And then we have John Viard, who is United Properties Management. And I think a lot of people know who John is and the impact that he's made in Lorain, especially if you know anything about what's going on Broadway. You know that John's taken a part in that. So it's just, again, it's just exciting to show folks in, explaining what it is about them that makes them do what they do. Because I think I think it's really easy to place a person as a leadership person on a pedestal, but to understand what it is that makes them tick is a whole other aspect about that person. And so I think it's really cool that we get the opportunity to let folks in on a conversation that they probably wouldn't have otherwise been a part of. So it's, like I said, it's been a room of 300 plus people. Going virtually, we have, we're at 200 right now. So it's just, again, just having that ripple effect. If you see a video and you're like, wow, how can I do that too? How can I make an impact? That's what it's all about. So
it's exciting.
Yes,
it really
very
is.
much so.
You celebrate those that make an impact in the community and expose them to other people, and it lifts the community and it makes the community stronger and it brings the community together. And exactly. It really is, it's really encouraging. So thanks for all the work that you're doing for that right now.
Oh, thank you.
So wanted to mention, so you and I had an opportunity to get together last week, right? Mm-hmm. I was speaking in front of the best class of 2022, right?
Yes.
And man, just a bunch of great questions that came to me, and then you and I had a conversation after that. Yes. And you were talking specifically about a position that I agree with, that I think is something that we need to be aware of. And you said that leaders need to be vulnerable, right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
and I think that came when we were talking about virtues and we were talking about balance. And I think it's kind of interesting where different people's viewpoints are when it comes to leadership, like whether they find them, you talk about the word accountable. Okay. But is it okay to be fallible? Are we allowed to, it's so hard where you're walking the fine line and you're trying. I don't think, and this is the conversation that you and I had, it is not fair to ask for perfection. We have to see everybody as human. I mean, people make mistakes. And unfortunately, it's like to see someone in their professional life and what they do in their personal life, those two things, for the most part, you would kind of hope don't combined kind of a thing. Like they're two separate lives. They're two different things. And what I do in my personal life may not always affect what I do in my professional life. And I think it also depends on what it is what your mission is, because that's the part that's really like, ooh, wait a minute. They're saying this, but they're doing this. And I think, yes, we must walk the line as far as you have to be able to, you have to be responsible. Definitely. Absolutely. But as far as respectful, you have to ask people to do things that you're willing to do. And also, I don't know, I think it's hard to really put a pulse on the community because you know what you want to do and you know what you have to do. But then it's just kind of like, well, I don't know. I think we just have to understand that everybody is human and things happen. And I don't know how we get to that place where we are more or less asking a leader, what can I help you with? rather than sitting there and pointing our finger and saying, this is what you're doing wrong. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. It's hard. It's definitely it's a hard position. And I think I don't know, I think it's easier to just kind of sit and say, or I should say, critique someone instead of saying, I see that it's possible that you are having an issue with this. How can I help you fix this issue? But because the other person might not see it as an issue, it's not an issue for them, and if it's an issue for someone else, maybe there's a whole other population who is having a problem with it. So how do you fix it? Like, if you don't know it's there.
Yeah, and we can go back to the first podcast that we did with Mike Elder, the head football coach at Avon High School, and he even points out that he allows the athletes to come to him and say, "Coach, this is something that we need to fix, or this is something that's going wrong, or this is something that maybe you need to change." Right? And we do, if we're, I believe that if we're going to be the best version of ourselves as a leader, we need to be aware of what we do wrong. We don't know what we don't know. So we need to put ourselves in a position where we trust people that are around us. And when they come to us and they say, "Hey, look, let's chat about this," we need to be open to have that conversation.
Right. And I've also realized too, like, if you are in a situation where people are not coming to you and are not saying that there's an issue, maybe there's something wrong with how you respond to receiving that information. So accepting that and acknowledging that is huge as well. And it's kind of hard to, I don't know, put that back on yourself. You know what I mean? And I think that's where we're at, is people need to start, like we said, be a little vulnerable and saying, "Hey, what do you think about what I just said?" Or what do you think about, like, do you think that that's the way we want to go? Or do you think that, is there a different route? Or, opening the floor is just so huge. And it's just, nobody as a leader wants to just have everybody doing exactly what you're telling them to do. You know what I mean? And it's like, you want everybody to have a say. And so, like, actually, I just had this conversation with someone the other day. Like, we'll sit there and we'll talk about the leader who we think is going 110% or 120%. First of all, why are you going 110 or 120%? Because shouldn't it be you're going about, we'll allow you to go about 80%. Okay. If you go 80%, let someone else do the 20% so that there is an investment on both sides in what is the project or the plan, right? I mean, I think we spend a lot of time praising leaders for all the things that they're doing. Like, "Oh my gosh, you're so busy and you're so this and you're so that." And it's just like the word that actually triggered the conversation that we were talking about earlier was balance. And so it's just like, really, how, if you're sitting there and you're telling someone, "Oh my gosh, you're doing so good, you're doing so awesome because you're 110% at work." Well, if you're 110% at work, what are you giving to home? And so, like, trying to find that perfect balance is so important. I think that's where a lot of us start to feel like we're failing, is because we're not giving enough at home as we give at work, or, you're giving too much at home and not enough at work. That's the perfect balance that is kind of hard. And I think that's the place where you're finding, like, a lot of people are feeling that they're failing.
Yeah, finding balance is difficult. I think if you ask 100 different people what, how they keep their life balanced, you're going to get 100 different answers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think we've figured that out yet.
No.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. That's a real hard one.
That is a hard one. You're going to make me think about that for a long time now. So, what life lessons have you learned by being the executive director of Leadership Lorain County? I mean, it kind of tails into what we just talked about, right? So
Right.
now I'm putting you on the spot, right? How do you do that balance thing? How do you carry on?
So again, this is literally just a conversation I just recently had. And I think it's learning how to put a positive spin on almost anything. Okay. So we get worked up and we think about the word lazy and we automatically say, lazy means that you're unwilling to work. Well, not really. Lazy also means you're unwilling to give the energy. So we were just talking about directors and giving 110% and 120%. What does that cause? Burnout, does it not?
Sure.
So like the conversation that we had, I'm like, you know what? It's okay to be lazy because the lazy is learning where your energy needs to be and where it doesn't need to be. And so, here with us being the small nonprofit that we are, you have to start figuring out where it is the best to be putting the most of your energy. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you when I say lazy and what lazy stands for me. Okay. So lazy stands for me is L, which means learning your capacity. Okay. Because you can't do everything all the time. And then the A is always authentic. So it's just being true to yourself and sharing the fact that, hey, I know what I can and cannot do. And it's okay for you to tell somebody, I am unable to do that, kind of a thing. And then the Z is Zen, finding that Zen place, because you always have to have peace. And then the Y is you. It's the YOU, meaning you have to be your own hero. So I keep going back to leaders who are giving 110 and 120%. It's like you have to take care of yourself. And, because burnout is happening and it, as the hashtag is, the struggle is real. And, I've just learned that understanding and accepting what your capacity is and, for the most part, giving the most that you can without sacrificing who you actually are.
So help us understand, how do we learn what our capacity is? How do we learn that?
So learning your capacity is, for me personally, if I am finding that I'm saying yes to too many things and I'm not able to give what that particular project actually needs. And that can be as far as even like participating on a committee or participating on a board and realizing like you're going to the meetings and by the next meeting, you're not prepared. You're not giving it the time that you need to be giving it because you're just going to the next thing. You're just putting constant fires out. And so learning that, okay, maybe that's something I need to take off my plate. Or, and if it's, a personal situation where it's just like, okay, I need to get my child to this place and this point and what have you. And you're realizing there's a meeting that keeps popping up that is at the same time that where you need to do, for whatever for your child. You have to like reevaluate like which one makes sense. Like, and I think that's learning your capacity is all about prioritizing. And then once you've prioritized, you realize, okay, this is what I can do. This is what I want to do. This is what I have to do.
Yeah, one thing when people start taking on leadership positions and when people are identified as being leaders and people are identified as influencers, then many organizations, many opportunities arise for those people to come out and get bigger and bolder in the community. And a lot of, I guess I could say that a lot of leaders then feel obliged to go out, when in reality, it sounds like what you're saying is we need to make sure that we have our priorities in order. That it's not choosing not to do something, it's choosing
Correct.
to do something right.
Right. Because it goes back to, do you want to be the jack of all trades and the master of none? I mean, what's the point? Like, you want to make sure you're doing your best in what it is that means something to you. Because that's the other part. If you're just taking on projects just to take on projects, then you're really not, you're doing yourself a disservice, especially if you're representing a specific nonprofit or organization.
And then, so the A in lazy is authentic,
Mm-hmm.
right? How do we make sure that we remain authentic?
I think that's literally just authentic is being honest with yourself and being honest with what you can bring. So, like, if you are at a crossroads in something, like I said, as you're prioritizing, and if you feel like you need to relay the information on what you're prioritizing and be honest. And that's where we talk about the whole vulnerability. Just say, like, I've got a lot on my plate, and this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do. And, or even if it's, this is what I want to do, but this is what I can do. Like, it's just explaining that, your capacity and being real with what is your capacity.
Do you find, again, you have, how many individuals are part of your class this year?
We have 23 people.
All right. And how many did you have last year?
Okay, so here goes we had to think outside the box this year. So our last full class was 43 people. So then when COVID happened, we had to do a whole change of the class. So we went for 6 months without a class, and then we started one in January. So we knew there would be an overlapping of the two classes. So we had a class of 19. So we had a class of 19 and a class of 23. We combined to what was almost the same, amount of our biggest class ever. And then now we're going back into, hopefully, what would be a normal, a normal session in 23. Gotcha. So, but yeah, so our capacity, our last class was 20, our current class is 23, class before that was 19, and the class before that was 43.
So you're meeting a lot of people, right?
Yes.
And you've got community leaders, you've got well, they would all be community leaders, I think. You've got people from the business side, you have people from the nonprofit side. You get a wide range of individuals that come in to go through through that experience.
Correct.
So you have talked with a bunch, and you probably mentor a lot of them. So this is this something that they're all talking to you about? Is that, I don't understand why I'm being asked to do so much, and help walk me through this, and they're looking to you for leadership from that standpoint and being a mentor, right?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of where I'm talking about, like the burnout and what have you, that's not usually the folks that are in the class. Those are the folks who have come out of the class and have gotten busy and are on the boards and have probably taken on more leadership after the class. That's where that dialogue usually happens. The folks that are in the class are usually the folks who are looking to dive in. Like, they're looking to find out where they need to be. They're finding out more about themselves and how it is that they themselves as individuals tick. And so, like, that's like the folks that are actually in the class, that like they're pretty much like ready for whatever. Like they want to get involved. But like I said, it's the folks who come out of the class, and I think after they've already made the networking and they've kind of gotten busy on boards and gotten a little bit more involved with being volunteers and what have you. Those are the folks who are, for the most part, are getting a little burnt out because they're being pulled in different directions. And I don't know, I think we've just got to get to a place where we're bringing our friends along. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure people who want to get more involved. And I know even, more people outside of, my professional life that want to get involved. And it's just kind of helping other people to get their toe wet and let them get a vibe for a committee or a board or being, or volunteering. So no, I don't, that dialogue is usually happening with folks who have kind of already been within the community for like, I don't know, 3-4 years. And especially like right now with the pandemic, it's been harder because you only know who you know. And so that's who those people are going to. And then those folks are feeling like they can't say no, but at the same time, they want to help. And I think we've got to get kind of more into a place where we want to bring new faces along.
Okay. So two things there. Are you then in your classes that you're with these members? Are you telling them about this? You've got this big PowerPoint presentation with the word lazy on there and say, don't be lazy is lazy, but here's what you got to be careful for. Are you coaching them along that way?
Absolutely. Because the reality is, you have to take care of yourself. Like if you, in order to give, you have to have something in reserve for yourself. And, it's all about the energy that you have and the energy that you offer. And so if you're out and about and you're, because I'm so about balance anymore. So like if you're out and you're giving all that energy outside of your home and you get home and you've got nothing left for your family, where does that leave you? Because, I get it. And I totally understand that you spend more time with your people at work than you do with your people at home. But currently that's not the case, is it? Like a lot of people are working from home and not being, now we've flipped it. Now we flipped it so that, you're more involved at home than you are outside of, what it is that you do. Or I think we're at a place where a lot of people are looking for an outlet, but just don't know how to go about it because we're all in our own little bubbles for the most part. And I think we have to really put ourselves out there and saying, like, if you are on a board and you see that your board is struggling, like saying, hey, I know of a place where you could fit in or where this will work for you. But again, there goes that strange way of trying to balance things out.
So, you use the word new faces. So we've got to get new faces involved. So how do we, how do you encourage others to, don't burn yourself out, go find a friend that wants to become involved and help them get involved. How do you go about that conversation?
I literally said I say exactly what you just said.
Right.
Because the other piece too is also getting your family involved, and I don't know, it's like just finding a buddy who can hold you accountable for saying, hey, you're, for lack of a better word, a better way to say it, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. You need to rest, or someone who is willing to pick up the slack for you. I mean, I think it's great to have some form of a buddy that'll hold you accountable for one, what it is that you want to do and what it is that you need to be doing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Go out and find a buddy.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Hold each other accountable. Lift each other up when you need to. Right. We all need that person to be able to go to and talk to when we're going through a crisis situation, or maybe we think we put ourselves out too much. Somebody to help us strike a balance in our life. Right. Have that conversation. Because again, we get to that point where we're so ingrained or focused on what we're doing that we don't see what we're doing. Right. We're
Exactly.
so focused on what we're doing, we don't see what we're doing. So
exactly. So you want to find that person who, one, is going to celebrate you, and one that you can celebrate without competition, without jealousy, like a win is a win. It shouldn't matter whose win it belongs. It's not about who that win belongs to. We're all in it to win it, aren't we?
I think so. And I love that. One of the biggest pieces in life that I see, I call it the pyramid. The biggest part of the pyramid is relationships, right? And me, I guess most of us older males, we get put into that box where we don't go to doctors, we don't really have close friends, but I think life is a lot better if you find those close friends. I could actually sit down, and I've got 7 to 10 male friends that I have a relationship with that know my struggles, that know what I'm going through, and they're there to pick me up when I need to be picked up. And they're not going to be jealous, right? Because I know all of their problems and I know all of their struggles,
Exactly.
right? So again, it comes down to this vulnerable, right? If I make myself vulnerable with a close group of people, and they make themselves vulnerable, it's amazing how that relationship builds each other up.
Exactly. Exactly. So like something that I've learned or that I know about myself is like I know I'm smiling now, but if I'm not smiling, I have the space that is just not always very approachable. And I have my like you just said, your core group of people who I know when I'm out, they will tell me in a heartbeat, "Girl, fix your face." And I'm like, "Oh." Because but it's just to be at peace to have people like that in your life, like, hey, or it's, a phone call, like, hey, we've had such and such amount of meetings and you haven't been out, or like we've gone out and you haven't been with us. What's going on? I mean, you just really learn to appreciate the folks that are willing to check in with you.
Yeah, and a lot of times they know something's going on. They get that feeling, and those are the people that you want surrounding you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Let me ask you this: how do you define success? How do you define success?
Okay, so defining success, I thought was an interesting question that you had asked. And for me, I would have to say success, good or bad, is okay. If the outcome is bad, success is learning the lesson, right? And then if the outcome of whatever it is that you had planned to move forward with is actually a good outcome, always remember to celebrate, because I don't think that we take the time. I think we just kind of move on to the next, move on to the next. And it's just kind of like not realizing, wait a minute, pause. Who helped you to find that success, to find that positive outcome? Find those people and make sure that you say, I am grateful for, because gratitude, right? Gratitude is always the best attitude. So it's like, if you have a bad outcome, go over what the lesson was. Find someone to help you to figure out what the lesson was. And so, because sometimes the lesson isn't always right there in front of you. takes a little bit of research. Like, wait a minute, like you're initially just so upset that whatever didn't, come out exactly the way you wanted it to come out. But like, I don't know. I think success, good or bad, is either figuring out what the lesson was or just making sure that you celebrate what was the positive outcome of whatever it was that you were trying to do.
Yeah, I love this celebrating the success, right? Because there are people out there that have achieved greatly, and they can probably look back at the last maybe 2 or 3 years, and it's almost as if, well, there's a success, move on to the next one. There's a success, move on to the next one, rather than creating. You're it's like climbing a ladder rather than climbing stairs, right? The stairs, you pause at
Right.
the next level, you pause at the next level, and enjoy the fact that you succeeded. I mean, I think this is a way to help us from not get burned out as well, by celebrating the
Exactly.
successes.
Yeah. Because my kids are funny, because they're like, Mom, you're so extra. And it's just because I try to make a big deal out of the smallest things because, I think we're taught that, it's a big deal when you turn 16. It's a big deal when you turn 21. It's a big deal when you get married. It's a big deal. But like, what about all the big deals that happen in between there? Like, there's all kinds of positive things that are happening in your life, and you need to celebrate it because, I mean, if you don't, then it just becomes just an ordinary thing, just, oh, we're just gonna keep it moving. But no, it should be a keep it moving. All right, what's the next thing we're gonna conquer? And okay, we're gonna celebrate that, and we're gonna celebrate this. And so I don't know. I think it is important to celebrate the positive, but also take a real good look at what the lesson was too, if it was a negative outcome.
So what caused you to have that attitude to celebrate the successes?
What caused me to do that?
Yeah. What experience happened in your life that you said, you know what, I'm going to start enjoying these? Or have you always been that way?
I'd have to say, I'd have to bring that's back to my mom. My mom always made a big deal out of everything. From first day of school to birthday parties to, I mean, I don't know. She just always was there and always just kind of made sure that I knew that she was proud or therefore, celebrating whatever it was that I had done. And so, kind of do the same for her as an adult, and so it's just kind of like, that's who I am. I don't know. I guess it was just ingrained in me as a child that I don't even really think about it when I'm doing it. Cause like I will be the first at whoever's celebration to say, oh my God, I'm so proud of you, kind of a thing. And I'd have to, that's funny. I never thought about it, but yeah, it's my mom. She always made a big deal out of everything. So, yeah, I guess that's where, and then once I had kids, yeah, my kids will tell you, they're like, Mom, like, really, you're being extra. I'm just like, but it's so great that you did this and you did that. And so I don't know, like, yeah, wow. Yeah, I never really thought about it. It is my mom.
So take a look at the influence that your mom had on your life and how important that is in your life. And when you think about success, you think about that. So your mom is impacting everybody that you impact. How cool is that?
Yes.
And that's a huge success for mom. Yay, mom, right?
Yay, mom. Because I'm going to tell you too, the other thing is she was always quick to check me too. So that's where I got the lessons. I think that's where I get the whole idea of, okay, wait a minute. Like, let's think, how could we have done that better? Or what can we do next time? So that is kind of where my check and balance comes from. That's interesting. Never thought about it.
I think it's cool that your mom is having impact on the people that you have impact on, and those that you have impact on are having impact on others because you know that they've learned the lesson and they heard from you and they're doing it. So how many generations away is mom impacting? I mean, how cool is you talk about a leader? Where's she? She needs to be on this podcast. She's impacting generations and generations faster.
Yeah, I'll have to tell her, hey, gotta hook you up with Bob.
Right. I mean, I think that's amazing, right? That your mom is impacting future and future generations. That's awesome.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Okay, how would you describe your leadership style? Probably came from mom. Let's give mom the credit up front.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know they definitely came from mom because mom's a hard worker. And I mean, her endurance is just amazing. Like her resilience is just, wow. But as far as I would say inspirational is probably the best way that I would describe that. Right. Is you're like, because I don't know. But I do challenge people. So I don't even know if that's because I've often had people who have asked, like, I don't know what I should do or what can I do? And then I'm like, well, honestly, if you really think about what it is that's holding you back, that's going to be there whether you do what you're going to do or not. You can always come back to that. And so I don't know, like, is that inspirational? I don't
Well, there's so many different leadership styles that are out there. And most of the people that I talk to, I mean, if somebody asked me, Bob, what's your leadership style? I would say transformational leadership. But that's
Okay.
because I've studied transformational leadership for a long time. And that's the only reason why I would say it. I think that asking that question, what I'm doing is I'm trying to get an idea of what you're doing, how you're leading. So you lead through inspiration, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you celebrate the positives. You're an encourager, right? But
Right.
you're also going to hold people accountable, right?
Right.
And again, I think that's a lesson that you suggested that you learned from your mom, right? You celebrated the victories, but your mom would also bring up in there, well, what did you learn? What lesson did you learn?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also say I lead by example. I mean, I'm definitely like a servant leader, as far as I wouldn't ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And so again, like, if someone ever needs anything, I always try to be there as quickly as I possibly can. So yeah, I mean, I guess it is inspirational, is probably my, I don't know, because I know we do the colors, I know that's the gold in me. I'm trying to pinpoint exactly what the leadership is. But yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I would say that you have servant leadership in you as well. The fact that you're the executive director of an organization that leads other people. I mean, you're serving them by leading them, right? You're serving your board by what you're doing for the nonprofit,
Right.
right?
By executing what they've discussed and what have you. Absolutely.
You're serving the community. You're making yourself vulnerable. I mean, servants make themselves vulnerable. I mean, that's the whole idea behind servant leadership, is that you don't think of yourself any highly than anybody else. You're actually there serving. You're there in a capacity to serve.
Absolutely.
And that might be the highest calling for a leader is that of being a servant leader. All right. All right. Core values. What are your core values?
So, it's so funny. Okay, so I would have to say, respect is huge for me. I like, I'm going to treat you exactly the way I want to be treated, but also, like, with respect, it's also how I treat you is usually mirrored in how you treat me. You know what I mean? Like, I'll start with the treat you the way I want to be treated, but then I will say that I am guilty of mirroring what respect I receive is pretty much what respect the other individual will receive. And I think that comes with time and learning another person and their characteristics, and, like, just getting to know them as an individual. I think that naturally kind of changes.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say respect is a huge core value of mine.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your plan for personal growth?
Oh, my plan for personal growth is definitely the balance situation. I definitely, my trinity is professional life, personal life, and, believe it or not, family kind of stands on its own. So that's like my little trinity, and I try to make sure that I want to give each one of those pieces an equal part of my time to try to be balanced. I think it's so hard. Like, you can just completely dive into work and have that be your everything. And then once you've done that, and guess what? Like either your family or your personal life kind of fallen to the wayside. So then if you've given that your all and then you don't have anything else to, you try to fall back on something that you've been a little dismissive to, it makes it a little harder to bounce back. So I want to be able to give, again, there's that word balance. I want it to all be even so that when I need to lean in to any of my Trinity, I have a place to do that.
Okay. So what we're looking for is, once you figure out the whole balance thing, write a book.
I'll write a book.
and let us know, because there's still many of us that are struggling with that.
It is so hard. Yeah, because like I know I've put in quite a few boundaries for myself. Like I will literally like I try to do the won't answer anything for work related emails and or phone calls after 5:00 Monday through Friday. I won't try to do too much work on the weekends. Because again, I was finding that I'm on my cell phone the whole time when I'm supposed to be watching a movie with family, or, trying to have lunch with a friend who's, asking me what is a serious question about what they plan on doing or what they're trying to do, or just I don't know. I just found it like that little thing actually made things a lot simpler for me, because then I knew, okay, I don't have to deal with that until Monday. I don't have to deal with that until tomorrow morning. And so that was like one of what I thought was going to be a hard thing to do, but it really wasn't. It really kind of eased my mind, and not that whole urgency, of, oh my gosh, I have to respond to this text. I have to respond to this phone call, or I have to respond to this email. So that actually was really, really helpful for me. So I think it's really, balance is about boundaries, like figuring out what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, and really just sticking to it.
Yeah, I like that. Balance is about boundaries. So I came face to face with that. I read a book. The author is Henry Cloud, and he wrote a book called Boundaries. Henry Cloud, the name of the book is Boundaries. And it really helped me put in perspective a lot of things. Because again, you learn some great things from your parents. I learned some great things from my parents, but I also learned some bad habits from my parents. I'm not so sure that my parents had boundaries, right? And they were always there, ready, willing, and able. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but I got myself to the point where I was trying to be all things to all people. Right.
That's it right there.
So let me give you this story. So there was a lad, his mom, and a donkey. Okay. So going through the first town, the lad was sitting on the donkey, and as they went through the town, the townspeople were angry. Okay. So they got out of that town, and they didn't understand why the townspeople were angry. So they were heading into another town. So what mom got on the donkey this time. So mom was on the donkey. The lad was leading the donkey, and they walked through the town, and everybody in that town was angry. So they went to the next town, and they decided to carry the donkey. As they carried the donkey through the town, they went over a bridge. They slipped. The donkey fell into the river and drowned. And here's the moral of the story. If you're trying to be all things to all people, you're going to lose your ass.
I love it. Perfect. I love it. That is so good. I love it.
But I love how you brought that all back and you categorize it as having boundaries, right? And because boundaries are so important, and man, that's something that I think we could talk on forever, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to come back to you in a second after I go back to my sponsors here, and I'm going to ask for a parting thought from you. So,
okay.
All right. So I just want to thank BCT Alarms, BCT Alarm, a local alarm company. Brian Jankowski is the owner. It's really cool what they're doing these days when it comes to security. Everything can be done from your phone. You can run the security of your entire house from your phone. So if you have a need or you want to take a look and see if there's any upgrading, give Brian a call. Also, remember he does fire alarm installation for those business owners. Also, WOBL and WDLW, the local Lorain County radio station. Gary and Renee Tillett really are putting their life and their soul into raising up the community. I want to thank them for the support that they've given me when I decided to start this podcast. All right, Julie, what are your parting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave us with?
You know what? I'm gonna bring it right back to what I said earlier. Just learning that it is still okay to be lazy. And when I say lazy, I mean learn your capacity, always be authentic. Zen is your space, and you are your own hero. I can't even say it enough.
Those are perfect thoughts and a great way to end our time together. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Bob.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.